M1A1s were tested in Pakistan, and the firing report of this T-59, a very basic tank, was better than the M1M1.
This was during General Zia's time.
General Zia's time.
And that's why the M1A1 wasn't
yes,
conducted.
Rejected.
In fact, I think he was seeing the firing of M1A1
yes.
before the plane crash.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. These are the pride and joy of the Pakistan Army.
Sir, these are the latest tanks anywhere in, latest MBTs anywhere in the world.
This is the Al-Khalid.
This is the recently developed Al-Khalid tank, which has been developed by Pakistan. And this features some of the latest systems which any good MBT around the world can have. This is the T-80UD, which is basically a tank of Russian origin but developed by Ukraine and inducted in the Pakistan Army in around the last years of the decade of 90s.
Right. Now what sort of terrains are these guys deployed in?
These are basically meant for desert and semi-desert belts of Pakistan.
So high speed and long range?
Yes.
High speed and long range?
Long range, yes.
Right, versus the Al-Zarar, which you said was better suited for the Punjab?
Punjab area and plains area.
Right. And a little bit of history here.
This is the T-85. This is the T-85. This is also a tank of Chinese origin, which we inducted in service during the so-called exercise brass tacks conducted by India. After that, this was interim measure to stabilize the semi-desert and desert areas of Pakistan.
And this nearly saw action during the escalation?
Yes, all of these tanks have almost seen action in the recent escalation, because when time of escalation comes, all the available military power is put into action, is geared up to go into action.
Excellent. And there's a little bit of history right here. This is the T-34, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. This is a T-34 tank. It is of Russian origin, and this is the tank which gave the Russians the final edge in the Second World War.
Right.
This is, and I must add to it that this is a running tank. It is not only a model, but it is a running tank. And probably very few pieces around the world are in this condition now. And this tank has got a 75 mm barrel and about a 500 horsepower engine. Very robust tank. It saw the Russian army through the conflict and made them victorious in the battle.
Now, has it seen action as far as Pakistan?
Yes, they were inducted in the Pakistan Army in pre-1965 war, and they have seen that era. Yes, they have seen action in Pakistan Army also.
Excellent. Pakistan's vast arsenal of tanks, ground, the basic purpose of tank is to support the infantry in ground battle. Sometimes they lead the charge, sometimes they're behind the infantry. But the bottom line is that they, more or less, are supposed to be invincible. But are tanks all that invincible?
Cigarette? No smoke.
But exactly how big of a deal are tanks? What aspects of tank design and operations challenge the myth of invincibility that surrounds this beast of battle? Tanks seldom operate alone, as they are organized into armored units which involve the support of the infantry. Thus, tanks are not solo players, because at the end of the day, tanks might plow through an enemy's position, but they cannot occupy territory and hold an objective. Only men can. Though powerful, tanks need protection too, usually through the support of reconnaissance or ground attack aircraft.
और ये है फजाई हथियारों का जमीनी अफवाज की इमदाद का उनसुर। फजाइया के तैयारे जरूरत पड़ने के चंद मिनटों में ही महाज के ऊपर परवाज करते हुए दुश्मन को एक दूसरी समत से मसरूफ अमल करते हैं।
That's because tanks are highly visible and rapid and can be easily spotted visually or on the radar. So if the enemy is expecting an armored column to arrive and the column itself does not know of enemy presence beyond visual range, it will probably be ambushed because of its high profile. Thus, the cavalry too needs the cavalry. The prevalence of unconventional and asymmetric warfare has put into question the utility of armored force. Considering that a tank is difficult to maneuver, especially in urban combat where civilians are in proximity, it can be easily targeted by insurgents or terrorists with improvised explosive devices or rocket-propelled grenades. Though tanks can be decisive in city fighting with the ability to demolish walls, they are especially vulnerable in urban combat. Tanks need a sustained supply chain for extensive operations. The North African campaign of World War II, headed by legendary generals like Erwin Rommel and Bernard Montgomery, proved another important battleground for tanks, as the flat, desolate terrain was ideal for conducting mobile armored warfare. However, this battlefield also showed the importance of logistics, especially in an armored force, as the principal warring armies, the German Afrika Korps and the British 8th Army, often outpaced their supply trains in repeated attacks on each other, resulting in a complete stalemate. In the end, it was Germany, the side that failed its tanks logistically, that lost in the pivotal Battle of Alamein. Tanks are vulnerable if targeted from the air. No, they are very vulnerable when targeted from the air. Helicopter gunships with ATGWs or anti-tank guided weapons are probably the most successful tank-busting machines ever created. There are several reasons for this weakness. One is that tanks are easily detectable. The metal they are made up of shows well on radar, and especially obvious if they are moving in formation. A mobile tank also produces a lot of heat, noise and dust, all of which are clues for the enemy which is watching from the skies. Here's a fact. A tank is not built like a tank. The deposition of armor around it is not uniform. The front is typically better armored than the sides or rear. Moreover, the tracks, wheels and suspension are some of the most vulnerable spots, exposed and outside the armored hull. The easiest way to disable a tank is to target the tracks for what is called a mobility kill. Once a tank is disabled, it is immobile. And once it is immobile, it is past tense. Next week, you will meet the Sea Soldiers. You will gain unparalleled access to the Naval Special Service Group, the SSG Navy, and its new Watchmen of the Ocean, the Marines. Get ready to float over land and swim underwater. Thanks for watching. We are soldiers.